She told me that room was off limits, and I listened. For months, I pretended I didn't notice it, pretended that living in another woman's house didn't make my skin crawl, pretended I was doing it for my family. But there are some things you can't unfeel. A door that's always locked, a crib you didn't build, a child who starts calling someone else mommy. This isn't just a story about a mother-in-law who crossed a line. It's about how love, twisted just right, can become something terrifying and convincing. I almost didn't see it until it was nearly too late. My name is Emma, and this is the story of the room I was never meant to open, but had to save my son. My name is Emma. I'm 31, married, one child, living in a house that isn't mine, with people I can't quite figure out. We moved in with my husband's parents 6 months ago. Not because we wanted to, because we had to. James lost his job. I was freelancing from home, barely scraping enough for groceries. We told ourselves it was temporary. Just until we get back on our feet, James said. 3 months, Max. It's been 6. To be fair, the house is beautiful. Big. Too big. Colonial style. 4 bedrooms, high ceilings, a backyard so manicured it looks like it's photoshopped. The kind of place that smells like furniture polish and quiet judgment. His mother, Margaret, is precise. Hair always pinned up. Lipstick always matte. Voice low, almost kind, but never warm. She does everything with the elegance of someone used to being obeyed. The moment we moved in, she gave me a list. Routines, schedules, boundaries, I understood. It's her house, her rules, but one rule stood out. That door is off limits, top of the stairs, second on the right, always closed, always locked. It's my personal space, Margaret said. You'll respect that. She didn't say it with a smile. She didn't need to. I nodded. Didn't ask, didn't wonder. At the time, it seemed harmless. Everyone's entitled to privacy, but now I think about that door all the time. It's strange what silence does to a house. James is gone most days, working a new job with long hours. Oliver, our 2-year-old, naps often, which leaves me alone with Margaret, in her kingdom, with that closed door. I walk past it 20 times a day, and each time I feel like it's watching me. I've never heard sounds behind it, never seen her go in, but sometimes I find myself standing in front of it, hand hovering near the handle, just wondering what's in there, what's so sacred that it's been locked away from a house full of family. I never asked James. He wouldn't ask her. He never does. But the longer we stay here, the harder it is to pretend that room doesn't exist. At first, I told myself it was just the stress, a new routine, a different house, living under someone else's roof. It's not easy. Especially when you're trying to raise a toddler in someone else's version of order. But then things started shifting. Margaret watches Oliver constantly, not in a helpful grandma way, more like a hovering, always close, always listening. She calls him her baby. At first, it was innocent. I thought maybe it was just a habit. But one afternoon, I walked into the living room and heard her whisper, "Don't worry, Mommy's here." I froze. She didn't see me. Oliver just smiled and babbled. She looked so calm, so natural, like she'd said it 1,000 times before. I didn't say anything, because what would I even say? That night, I mentioned it to James. He laughed. She probably just slipped up. You know, old habits from when I was a kid. I wanted to believe him. But Oliver started calling her Mommy more often. I corrected him gently, every time. But Margaret would just smile. "Kids are impressionable," she said. "You know that." Other things started piling up. There were toys I didn't recognize, new clothes in his drawer that I hadn't bought, a stuffed animal that Oliver called Snuggle Bear. I'd never seen it before. Margaret said she'd picked it up on a little errand. Sometimes when I'd go to get him from his crib, he'd already be gone, downstairs in Margaret's lap, watching cartoons, his hair already brushed. He woke up and called for me, she'd say, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Let me help," she always offered. Motherhood can be exhausting. It should have been a relief, but it didn't feel like help. It felt like replacement. James still brushed it all off. Said his mother was just excited to be around a baby again. Said I was overthinking. Maybe I was. Maybe I am. But sometimes when I hear her humming lullabies through the hallway, ones I've never sung to my son, I wonder if she's just being sweet or practicing something else. It was late. James had fallen asleep with his phone on his chest, still playing some mindless podcast. Oliver had been down since 8, and I couldn't sleep. Again. I'd been hearing things, not loud things, soft sounds, like movement, fabric shifting, footsteps that didn't belong to a house full of people already in bed. I wrapped myself in a sweater, stepped into the hallway. The house was still. No creaks, no wind, no Oliver. And then I saw it. Margaret. She was walking up the stairs, barefoot, in a robe, hair loose. Something about her silhouette felt off, like she was gliding instead of walking. She didn't see me, didn't hear me either. She moved straight to that room, second door on the right, the one we were never allowed to open, the one I'd taught myself to ignore, until now. She reached into her robe pocket, pulled out a key, unlocked the door, slipped inside. But right before the door clicked shut, I heard it, a soft humming. Not from her. From a speaker? A monitor? A lullaby. Then the door locked. From the inside. I stood in the hallway for a full minute, frozen, mouth dry, trying to understand what I'd just seen, what I'd just felt. Because I wasn't scared. Not yet. But something deeper was happening. Something colder. It wasn't just that the room existed. It was how she moved in it. Like she belonged there. Like it was sacred. Private. Personal. I walked back to the bedroom, heart pounding in a slow, confused rhythm. James rolled over when I crawled. Into bed. Everything okay? He murmured, half asleep. Yeah, I whispered, but it wasn't. Because now I knew 2 things for sure. Margaret had the only key to that room. She still used it, and whatever she was doing in there, it wasn't over. I woke up to silence. No babbling. No morning whines. No little feet kicking the wall from his crib. I checked my phone. 7:43 a.m. James had already left for work. I stretched, yawned, then suddenly froze. Where was Oliver? He always woke up by 7. Always. I practically lived off the sound of that baby monitor. Except, I realized the monitor was off. I didn't remember turning it off. I ran to his room. The crib was empty. Blankets still wrinkled from sleep. The nightlight still glowing. No child. No sound. My stomach dropped. I sprinted downstairs, heart hammering. There she was, Margaret, in the kitchen, making pancakes like it was Sunday brunch. Oliver was sitting in his high chair, already dressed, hair combed, chewing calmly, like it was normal. Good morning, she said. I figured I'd let you rest. Where was he? I asked. My voice cracked mid-sentence. With me, she said, flipping a pancake. He had a bad dream, came to my room, I comforted him. He's 2. He can't open doors by himself. She didn't flinch. Doors are just wood, Emma. Love is blood. I felt my skin crawl. Oliver looked at me and said sweetly, Grandma said you can rest now. She'll be the mommy. My blood turned to ice. What did you say? I asked. He shrugged, smiled. Grandma said it. Margaret placed a plate in front of him, then looked at me. Calm, confident. Maybe you should enjoy the help while you have it. Motherhood is exhausting when you're not naturally built for it. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stood. There, blinking, trying not to lose it in front of my child. That night, I searched the whole house for spare keys, found nothing. But I did find a photo. In the hallway drawer, tucked under old mail, a framed picture of Oliver. Not one we'd taken. Not from a family event, not from my phone. He was in a crib, in different clothes. and the background looked like the off-limits room. It was dated 6 weeks ago. I never saw that photo get taken, and I had never seen those clothes before. Margaret left for her volunteer shift at 11 a.m., hair perfect. Lipstick smudged into a line that looked more like war paint. I waited exactly 10 minutes after she pulled out of the driveway. Oliver was at daycare. James was at work. I was alone, and I was done pretending I didn't care what was behind that. Door I'd searched before, found nothing. But today, I had one thing I hadn't had before: desperation. And as it turns out, desperation thinks differently. In the back of Margaret's closet, under a box of winter scarves, was a small red tin. Inside it, buttons, old receipts, a recipe card for lemon pie, and a silver key. Wrapped in a blue satin ribbon, I didn't hesitate. I walked to the room like I'd walked past it 1,000 times. But this time I turned the key. The door opened with a soft click, and I wish I could say it was dusty, that it was dark, that it looked abandoned, but it didn't. It looked prepared, fresh, clean, curated. Photos covered the walls, all of them of Oliver, blurry ones, zoomed in ones, some clearly taken without me knowing. They were pinned to corkboards, arranged by date, labeled in Margaret's handwriting. First laugh. He smiled at me today. He knows who I am. He chose me. There was a changing table in the corner, diapers stacked neatly beside it, wipes, lotion, a pacifier I knew had gone missing months ago, a rocking chair, still rocking. Crib, full-sized, real, with a hand-sewn quilt folded inside, with his name embroidered in the middle. Oliver. There was even a baby monitor, tuned to a signal. Probably mine. My throat closed. My hands shook. Then I saw the drawer. I opened it. Inside were documents, a copy of Oliver's birth certificate, except it had been altered. My name was scratched out. Margaret's name was written in, printed over the original in faint, ghostly ink. Beneath it, adoption paperwork, unfiled, unsigned, but filled out. Filed as pending, and at the bottom, a sticky note. Soon. I didn't leave the room. I didn't cry. Didn't panic. Didn't scream. I sat in the rocking chair, the one she set up for herself, holding the altered birth certificate like a gun. I waited. At 12:04 p.m., I heard the car. Tires crunching the gravel, the front door opening, her heels clicking, across the wood floors like a metronome counting down to impact. Then, silence. Then, her voice. Emma? Calm. Sweet. Innocent. I didn't answer. A pause. Then her footsteps crept up the stairs. Slow. Controlled. Until they stopped right outside the door. She didn't expect it to be open. She didn't expect me to be in it. She walked in and stopped cold. Our eyes locked. Her expression, not panic, not fear, just irritation, like I'd spilled wine on her carpet. You weren't supposed to come in here. And yet, here I am. I stood up, held out the birth certificate. You've been watching us, recording us. You forged legal documents. You put a crib in a room and called yourself his mother. She crossed her arms, calm. He came to me. That boy knows. He feels it. He's two. And you're tired, Emma. I've seen it. You resent him. You let him cry sometimes. You leave him in his crib longer than you should. You didn't even hear him leave the nursery this morning, did you? My jaw clenched. He didn't leave. You took him. He chose comfort. You're sick. No, she whispered, stepping closer. I'm ready. I wasn't ready with James. I was young, broken, unsupported. But now I can do it right. With Oliver. He's not yours. She smiled. You keep saying that, but he calls me mommy sometimes, doesn't he? I held up my phone. James is 10 minutes away. I've already sent him photos of everything. The adoption form, the altered certificate, the nursery. For the first time, her expression cracked. You'd destroy his childhood for this? You already did. Her voice rose. The calm shattered. You don't get to take him from me. You never had him. She lunged forward, but I stepped back. Phone still in my hand, camera still recording. Try it, please. She stopped, chest heaving, lip trembling. But her hand stayed down. I walked past her, down the stairs, out the front door. James pulled up just as I stepped outside. I know, I said before he could speak. It's worse than we thought. We didn't even argue, didn't pack. We drove straight to a hotel, just us. Just Oliver, and I didn't look back, because if I did, I might see her standing in that window, and I knew in my bones. She still wasn't done. We didn't sleep that night. Oliver passed out on the hotel bed in 5 minutes flat, but James and I sat in silence, back to back, phones off. TV muted, just silence. And in that silence, the questions started screaming. How long had she been planning it? When did it stop being grandma and start being mother? And how the hell did we miss it? James was shaking. He kept replaying. It all, her behavior, the little comments, the passive-aggressive digs I'd brushed off for months. She kept saying we were young, that we'd need help, that Oliver was lucky to have her. I thought she was just proud. She was preparing you to disappear. He didn't respond. That's when I told him about the documents, the fake birth certificate, the adoption forms, the room she created, not for Oliver, but for herself. She wanted to relive motherhood, but on her own terms. No struggling marriage, no postpartum depression, no fear. Just a clean slate with someone else's baby, with my baby. We stayed in that hotel for 3 days, filed a police report. James cut off all contact, changed our numbers, installed security cameras, enrolled Oliver in a new daycare, one that doesn't allow unscheduled pickups by anyone. Margaret tried calling once from a blocked number. I didn't answer, but I listened to the voicemail. Her voice was calm, measured, like she was talking. About the weather. I know you're confused, hurt, but one day you'll understand. Some mothers are chosen by love, not biology. That line lives in my spine. Some nights I still wake up thinking I hear the monitor, even though it's unplugged, even though it's been in the closet for weeks. Sometimes I dream I walk into that room again, and it's still warm, like she never left. It's been 5 months. We found a new apartment. Nothing fancy, just ours. Oliver's growing fast. He talks more, sleeps better, calls me mommy without hesitation now. But sometimes when I rock him to sleep, I hear her humming in my head, soft, off-key, too slow. I deleted the photos, burned the documents, boxed up the baby monitor, and dropped it at a donation bin I didn't tell James about. Still, there are days I look at a locked door and feel my chest tighten. Not because I think she's behind it, but because I know what it's like to open something and never feel safe again. I asked James once, quietly, if he remembered her singing lullabies when he was a kid. He said no, but I think he was lying. Some people think monsters wear masks, but Margaret never did. She smiled. She folded laundry. She made pancakes from scratch. She said, "I'm only trying to help." And she meant it. That's the part that keeps me up sometimes. She really believed. She loved Oliver. She really believed he loved her back. And maybe in some warped, unfixable way, he did. Because when children are young, they don't know danger. They only know arms that hold them. I don't think about revenge. I don't want to see her again. But every once in a while, I wonder if she'd waited a little longer, been just a little quieter. Would I have even noticed? Would I have handed him over with a smile? Called it mother-in-law help and never looked back? I don't like the answer. So now every time I hold my son, I say it out loud. For both of us, I'm your mother. No one else. No one ever again. Because sometimes closure isn't about forgiving or forgetting. Sometimes closure is just the locked door you never walk past without remembering what almost happened.
If you made it to the end of this story, you didn't just hear what happened. You stood in that room. You heard the lullaby. You felt the chill. Comment I saw the door. And leave a padlock emoji so I know you made it through. I'll be reading everyone, and if you felt this, subscribe, like, and share with someone who's lived through a silence they couldn't explain. Here at Drama Chronicles, we unlock what no one else talks about. See you in the next confession.